My name is Julie Reynolds. I'm 35 years old. And this is the story of how I lost my world in a single phone call, then stood up to everyone who tried to take what little I had left. It was a Friday. I still remember the exact time, 3:12 p.m. I was in the conference room on the 13th floor, standing in front of the board with a laser pointer in my hand and 12 sets of eyes watching every movement. The presentation was about long-term branding strategy. I'd practiced it for days, polished every line, every visual. But that's not what haunts me. What haunts me is the vibration of my phone on the table, the fourth time it buzzed in under 5 minutes. The number was unfamiliar. Normally I'd ignore it, but something in my chest tightened. Something inside me whispered, "Pick up." So I paused, apologized to the board, and stepped into the hallway. White walls, glass panels, sunlight streaming in, none of it prepared me for what came next. "Is this Julie Reynolds?" a voice asked. Sharp. Controlled. "This is Officer Grant with Hamilton County Police Department." My breath caught in my throat. The hallway suddenly felt too narrow, like the walls were closing in. "Yes," I said, gripping the phone tighter. "I'm very sorry to inform you that your husband, Brian Reynolds, was killed in a severe car accident. Your daughter, Lily, is in critical condition at Mercy West Medical Center." Time splintered. My knees gave out before my mind caught up. I reached for the wooden paneling behind me, the only thing stopping me from collapsing. No. That can't be. They just left the house, 2 hours ago at most. "The accident occurred at the intersection of Elm and 3rd, the officer continued. A red SUV driven by Curtis Allen ran a red light going over 50 miles per hour. He was intoxicated. Blood alcohol level tested at 3 times the legal limit. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The world stopped making sense. The next thing I remember is my assistant, Natalie, screaming as I collapsed near the elevator. She's the one who drove me to the hospital, weaving through traffic like every red light was a death sentence. At Mercy West, they wouldn't let me see Lily right away. They said she was undergoing emergency procedures. I could barely hear them. The only words ringing in my head were, "Brian is gone." Brian, my husband, the man who kissed my forehead that morning and whispered, "I'll be home in time for dinner." My anchor. My best friend. My partner in every way that mattered. Gone. A nurse named Lena led me into a private room. Harsh white lights. Cold metal chairs. A ceiling that felt too high, too sterile. That's where I met Dr. Mitchell, the chief neurosurgeon. Calm. Unflinching. The kind of man who has delivered too many tragedies to too many mothers. "Your daughter Lily sustained a severe brain injury," he said. "She's in critical condition. We've placed her in a medically induced coma to reduce brain swelling. There's also a broken femur and lung trauma." I didn't hear the rest. One word echoed louder than anything else, coma. I don't remember walking to the morgue. But I remember the room. The smell. The chill in the air. They warned me that Brian's body might not look the same. But when they pulled back the sheet, there he was. Peaceful. Pale. Still. I touched his hand. It was ice cold. Not the warmth I'd known every morning. Not the man who brewed coffee and made heart-shaped pancakes with Lily. I bent down, whispered, "I'm here, Brian. I'm here. Don't leave me alone." He didn't answer. I stayed until Megan arrived. My best friend since college. Lily's godmother. She'd received only 2 words from me, "Help me." And she came, without question, without hesitation. She brought tissues, coffee I couldn't drink, and the kind of quiet presence that held me together. My parents didn't come. I called them from the hospital hallway. Still in my blood-stained blazer. My hands trembling. My mother picked up. I could hear laughter and clinking glasses in the background. Julie? What's going on? We're at Evan's birthday party, she said. Evan, my younger brother, was turning 30. They'd booked out the second floor of Stonebridge Restaurant. I remembered, because a week ago, Mom had asked me to come. I told her no. Lily had a swim meet. She said I was being difficult. Again. Brian's dead, I said. My voice cracked like a snapped tree branch. Car crash. Lily's in surgery. They don't know if she'll make it. A pause. Then, oh dear, Julie. That's unfortunate. But we're at the restaurant right now, so. So? I asked, my voice rising. Julie, please don't make a scene. Evan's about to cut the cake. I didn't speak. I hung up. Because if I didn't, I would have screamed until my throat bled. Brian's funeral was held at Gracewood Church, the same place we were married. My parents didn't come. No one from my side of the family did. Just Brian's elderly parents, and Megan. Always Megan. I saved them a seat anyway. Just in case. It stayed empty. I spoke at the podium, my hands trembling as I read from the creased paper. I talked about Brian's pancakes. His silly songs. The way he tied Lily's shoes. The way he loved, fully, unconditionally, without ego. I didn't cry. When I walked back to the front row, I looked at the empty chair again. A single white rose sat where my mother should have been. Later that week, back at the hospital, Lily still hadn't woken up. Her tiny body wrapped in gauze and tubes. Machines humming beside her like some cruel lullaby. Then the nurse handed me an envelope. No name. No return address. Inside, a condolence card. Our deepest sympathies. The handwriting, unmistakable. My mother's. At the bottom, she'd written, "We'll stop by when we get a chance, if Evan's schedule clears up." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply placed the card in the drawer beside Lily's bed and never looked at it again. What do you do when your whole world burns, and the people who were supposed to show up don't? You start building your own world from the ashes. Alone if you have to. And that's exactly what I did. The days that followed didn't feel real. They felt stitched together with strings of disbelief, too quiet, too slow, like the world was suspended in gray. I slept in a chair beside Lily's bed, curled up in a blanket Megan brought from home. Every morning, I woke to the same beeping rhythm, the same sterile smell of antiseptic and latex gloves, the same sight of my daughter's tiny chest rising and falling, barely. I didn't cry. Not because I didn't want to. But because I couldn't afford the luxury of breaking down. Not yet. Every hour was spent watching for signs, an eyelid flutter, a finger twitch, a sudden shift in the monitor's tones. Sometimes I read her books in a steady voice, afraid if I let the tremble through, she'd sense I was giving up. I wasn't. On the fourth day, a bouquet of white lilies appeared on the table beside her bed. No card. No vase. Just wrapped in crisp white tissue. My mother's favorite flower. I didn't need to ask. I threw them in the trash without hesitation. She didn't come to the funeral. She didn't come to the hospital. But she could send a flower. I thought that was the final insult. I was wrong. It was a Saturday afternoon when I met with the hospital's financial coordinator. Medical costs were already surpassing insurance coverage. Surgery, ICU stay, 24-hour observation, neurology consults, it all added up fast. I didn't even know how long Lily would need treatment, and no one could promise she'd ever walk or speak again. That's when Megan stepped in. She found a lawyer. His name was Ethan Weller, and he showed up in a charcoal gray suit, carrying a leather briefcase and an air of quiet competence. He didn't try to sugarcoat anything. "Your friend Megan asked me to come." I've handled wrongful death and catastrophic injury suits for over a decade. Based on the details, you have a strong case, and frankly, a dangerous driver with multiple DUIs should have never been behind the wheel. He opened a folder and slid a printed document toward me. Initial settlement offer from the drunk driver's insurance company, $4.6 million. That's just a starting figure. I couldn't even react to the number. It felt like a stranger had said it. Money meant nothing when your child was in a coma and your husband was in the ground. But Ethan was practical. We can push for more, Julie. The emotional toll, the long-term trauma, the cost of rehabilitation. That's what I'm here for. I nodded. Because I had to. It wasn't about money. It was about making sure Lily had every tool she might need, every expert she might rely on, every chance to live the life she still deserved. 3 days later, I signed the legal authorization. By the end of the week, the settlement had been pushed to $6.8 million, divided into medical trusts, education funds, and emergency disbursements. Ethan's team was relentless, professional, and fast. I thought things were finally settling. That's when my parents came back into the picture. It started with a text from my mother. We'll stop by the hospital to see Lily this afternoon. Bringing gifts. 2:30 okay? No apology. No question about her condition. Just an assumption that they could walk back in, now that they knew money was involved. I said nothing. Just texted back, room 314. Come. At 2:28 on the dot, they walked in. My mother wore her favorite gray wool coat, pale pink lipstick perfectly in place. My father followed behind her, carrying a giant plush bear wrapped in shiny blue paper. They looked more like they were headed to a baby shower than a critical care room. She's asleep, I said quietly, adjusting Lily's blanket. She just finished IV therapy. Oh. Well, we brought something for her. My mother placed the bear beside the table and smoothed Lily's sheets like she had a right to touch them. Then she turned to me. Can we talk outside for a moment? No, I said. Say what you need to say here. Lily finds comfort in familiar voices. My father stepped forward. We heard about the settlement. That's good. Honestly, we're relieved. But your mother has a few ideas. My body stiffened. I didn't blink. My mother opened her purse and pulled out a yellow envelope. Inside was a printed business proposal. A startup plan. At the bottom, the founder's name, Evan Carlson. Your brother is launching a new app, she explained brightly, as if she were offering a cookie recipe. It's a platform to book pet trainers and groomers, like Uber, but for pets. I said nothing. He's looking for seed funding. Around $250,000. We thought maybe, if you allocated 10% of the settlement, the whole family could benefit. I laughed. Once. Cold. You want to use money from my husband's death and my daughter's coma, for Evan's pet startup? My mother frowned, offended. It's not like that. The trust covers Lily's care. This would be from the surplus. Your father reviewed the documents. It's completely doable. I looked at Lily. Her face, still pale, her breathing slow. My hand gently stroked hers. Let me make this clear, I said slowly. Not a single cent of that money is leaving the trust unless it's for Lily's health, recovery, or education. This isn't a lottery win. This is the price of trauma you'll never understand. We're not asking for the whole thing, my father said quickly, trying to soften the blow. Just a portion. We're family. You weren't family when I collapsed at the hospital, I replied. You weren't family when Brian was buried alone. You weren't family when Lily almost died. Don't show up now acting like you're owed anything. My mother's voice dropped. Don't be arrogant, Julie. You think this money will last forever? Let's see how long that attitude lasts when you're alone. I didn't flinch. I pulled out my phone and hit record. Not because I needed legal protection, but because I wanted a reminder. A reminder that I wasn't imagining this. When they returned to the room, I didn't even look up. If you're truly here for Lily, I said, then ask her what her favorite book is. Ask if she likes warm socks or cold juice. If you're not here for her, then leave. They left without saying goodbye. And I knew, right then, I wasn't just fighting for my daughter's recovery, I was fighting to keep the memory of my husband, the innocence of my child, and every ounce of peace we'd built as a family safe from people who never showed up when it mattered. I was done pretending blood makes family. I didn't tell Lily about my parents' visit. I didn't tell her about the envelope, the startup pitch, or the way her grandparents turned her trauma into a business opportunity. Some truths are too ugly for a child's heart. Instead, I sat by her bedside and read to her as usual. That night it was Charlotte's Web. Her breathing was steady. Her brow furrowed when I reached the chapter where Charlotte dies, a reflex she always had when something felt unfair. The next morning, Dr. Mitchell confirmed it. Lily was beginning to come back. Slow progress, yes. But it was happening. Her responses were purposeful. Her eyes occasionally tracked movement. Her right hand could squeeze. She's still fighting, he told me, his eyes serious but kind. We'll continue with the physical therapy and cognitive testing. The worst is over, but recovery takes time. He always knocked before entering the room. He always looked me in the eye. And not once did he offer false hope. Just facts, and the space to hope if I dared. That hope carried me through the long hours. Sophia, the night nurse, kept a small notebook with every flicker of progress. 2:17 a.m. a slight toe reflex. 3:05 a.m. facial grimace during bandage change. 4:42 a.m. eyelid tremor when mom sang. I read the notes over and over like sacred scripture. Then came the moment I couldn't forget. On the 20th day, after her afternoon therapy, I whispered, "If you can hear me, just squeeze my hand." And she did. Deliberately. Clearly. No one could tell me it was involuntary. I felt her strength. I felt her will. I kissed her hand and whispered, "Mommy's here. I'm not going anywhere." Dr. Mitchell stood outside the glass, nodding. He didn't need to say a word. I could see it in his face. She was coming back. That night, I told Megan everything about the trust, the settlement, the pitch my parents had made. She didn't gasp or rage. She just sat there, hands folded, and said quietly, "They lost the right to ask you for anything the moment they chose birthday cake over a hospital bed." I smiled. It was the first real smile I'd felt in weeks. 3 days later, I stood in a quiet law office on Reading Avenue and finalized everything. The full $6.8 million settlement would be distributed across 3 accounts. 1. Immediate medical expenses, surgery, ICU, rehab. 2. A long-term medical trust, managed by a board of specialists, for anything Lily might need in her lifetime. 3. Education and support fund, annual disbursements for school, therapies, and future independence. Do you want to allocate anything for yourself? Jolene, Ethan's financial counsel, asked gently. You're entitled to emotional damages, loss of income, and caregiver compensation. I looked out the window at the drizzle on the glass. Everything I need, I said, is in room 218, breathing through a ventilator. I'm not interested in anything else. She nodded and marked the form. That evening, I sat by Lily's bed, brushing her soft, newly growing hair and whispered, "You don't have to worry about anything. I've got it all covered. You just focus on healing." She squeezed my finger again. 3 times. It used to be our secret code. 3 squeezes meant I love you. I squeezed back. Once. Me too. When I returned home that night to pick up fresh clothes, I found a thick manila envelope in the mailbox. No stamp. Just our names, Julie and Lily Reynolds, written in my mother's slanted cursive. Inside was a letter. 3 handwritten pages. At the bottom, it read, "We were wrong. We never saw you clearly. If you'll let us, we'd like to come to Lily's birthday on Saturday. Not to seek forgiveness. Not to explain. Just to be present. No mention of money. No demands." I folded the letter and tucked it into Lily's baby book. I didn't respond right away. I didn't trust it. But I didn't tear it up either. That Saturday, Lily's birthday, the air smelled of cake, fresh grass, and cautious hope. I had moved us into a new house, single-story, accessible, with a low porch and wide hallways. I used part of the emergency disbursement to pay for it outright. No mortgage. No stress. The backyard was trimmed and decorated with sea creature balloons. Lily had picked the theme. Ocean animals, she said, because Daddy likes whales and I like glowing jellyfish. She sat in her wheelchair under a striped canopy, a pink blanket over her knees, and her drawing pad on her lap. She still couldn't walk, and her right hand trembled when she held a crayon, but her spirit had returned. Megan brought 2 cakes, one shaped like a squid, the other like a submarine. Brian would have been proud. He always said birthdays weren't just for celebrating age, they were for showing a kid that they're the center of someone's universe, even for one perfect day. At 3 p.m., a silver sedan pulled up. My mother stepped out holding a gift wrapped in dolphin-patterned paper. My father followed with a white fabric tote. Evan wasn't with them. I didn't speak as I opened the gate. I simply nodded toward the backyard. Lily was laughing with her classmates and her physical therapist, Drew, who was making balloon sharks with inflated cheeks. My mother really saw her, for the first time in weeks. And for a second, her face faltered. The way Lily's hands trembled as she held her crayon. The way she laughed a little too hard, the way her eyes scanned the crowd for a face that wasn't there, Brian. "She looks," my mom began, then paused. "She looks incredibly strong." I nodded. "She gets it from Brian." We walked over. I kept my voice calm. I didn't want to make a scene. I didn't want pity or performance. Just honesty. "Lily, your grandparents are here." She turned slowly. Her eyes, so young and yet far too old now, locked onto theirs. She didn't blink. She didn't flinch. "I had an accident," she said, soft but firm. "Daddy died. I needed someone. But no one came. No denial. No rebuttal. My parents stood frozen. But," she added, "today's my birthday. If you're here for me, you can stay." Then she turned back to her friends. "Guys, these are my grandparents. They brought the whale cake." Laughter erupted. My mother wiped the corner of her eye. That day, I poured lemonade for my mom. I handed cake to my dad. I watched them sit with Lily and ask real questions. "What books do you like now? Does your leg still hurt? Can I push your wheelchair to the balloon station?" No excuses. No talk about Evan. Just presence. And for the first time in my life, I felt something I'd never felt from them before: effort. Maybe not love. Not yet. But the effort to become better than who they were. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough for now. The week after Lily's birthday felt like walking a tightrope suspended between 2 worlds, one old, one cautiously new. In the old world, my parents were strangers. Cold, transactional, absent. They saw me as a responsibility, not a daughter. A variable, not a constant. But now? Something was shifting. I didn't trust it. Not yet. But I noticed the effort. My mom called to ask for Lily's therapy schedule. Not out of convenience, she wanted to attend. Just to be there. My father came over with a toolkit and quietly installed a reinforced handrail on the back porch. I didn't ask. He didn't ask for anything in return. Evan never showed. I didn't expect him to. Not anymore. But for now, I let the silence settle. I had no space for grudges. Only boundaries. Lily was showing more signs of progress, slow, halting, but real. Her speech was still limited, but the smile was back. The spark. She still tired easily, but every time she drew with her left hand, or tried a new therapy stretch, she'd shout, "Watch me, Mommy." And I always did. One crisp October morning, I took her out to the garden behind the rehab center. The sky was pale blue, the wind just strong enough to lift her thin hair. We sat beside the flower beds. I watched as she bent forward, careful and slow, to pick up a fallen daisy. "I want to make a wish," she said. "But I don't have a dandelion." "Then whisper it into the petals," I told her. Flowers listen too. She leaned in, closed her eyes, and whispered, "I wish I could run again. So Daddy sees me from up there and knows I'm not giving up." It nearly broke me. But I kept my voice steady. "He sees you, Lily. He's never missed a single second." That afternoon, we had her first solo wheelchair session in the therapy hall. She maneuvered through cones, reversed on command, and lifted a small basketball into the mini hoop Drew had set up. When she scored, the other kids clapped, and Drew shouted, "That's my girl." Her eyes lit up. Again. That night, I stayed beside her bed longer than usual. She was sleeping peacefully, the monitors steady. I scrolled through my phone, rereading a message Ethan had sent. "The final oversight board has approved the revised trust plan. Educational resources now included for advanced learning support." It meant that even if Lily faced long-term challenges, she'd always have a path forward. Security. Stability. Something I never had. Just as I was setting the phone down, it buzzed again. A new message. From Evan. "Heard Mom and Dad came to Lily's party. I wasn't invited, but I get it. Just wanted you to know. I'm sorry. I know I've been a selfish jerk most of our lives. If Lily ever wants an uncle who won't screw up, I'll be here." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't respond. I didn't delete it either. Maybe that's how healing begins, not with answers, but with space. The next morning, while brushing Lily's hair, she asked the question I'd been dreading. "Mommy, if I didn't go swimming that day, would Daddy still be here?" Time froze. I held the brush mid-air. "I don't know," I said softly. "But Daddy chose to take you because he believed in you. Because he knew you were strong. He wanted to be there, cheering from the sidelines." Lily looked up at me. "Then I have to keep going. Even if it's hard." "So Daddy's proud." "You already make him proud," I whispered, hugging her close. That afternoon, I walked past the mirror in the hospital hallway and barely recognized myself. Tired, thinner, hair always in a bun. But my reflection wasn't what stopped me. It was the feeling. I didn't look fragile anymore. I looked like someone who had walked through fire and carried a child out of it. Later that evening, I returned home to pick up mail and drop off some documents for Ethan. There was a thick white envelope waiting in the mailbox again. No stamp. Just my name this time. Inside was another letter from my parents. More humble this time. Fewer words. At the end, it read, "We are learning. We are slow. But we're trying. Please let us earn the right to be called your family again. Not by blood. But by showing up." I placed the letter in the drawer with the rest. Maybe someday I'll burn them. Maybe someday I'll read them to Lily. But not yet. Because showing up once doesn't undo years of silence. Showing up consistently? That's how you rebuild. One Sunday morning, I brought Lily home for her first full weekend out of the hospital. She rolled down the hallway, excited to see her new room. I had decorated it in soft blues and coral pinks, with glow-in-the-dark ocean murals and a ceiling projector that lit up like the night sky. Her bed had side rails. Her therapy swing hung near the window. And on her dresser stood a framed photo of Brian, holding her the day she was born. "I miss him so much," she said, tracing the photo with her finger. "I wish he could see my drawings." "He sees them," I replied. "Every color." She wheeled over to the art corner, pulled out a blank page, and started drawing. Slowly. Carefully. A big purple whale with stars around it. "This one's for Daddy," she said. I smiled. In that moment, I didn't feel grief. I felt grace. That night, while she slept peacefully in her new bed, I curled up on the couch and opened my journal. For the first time in a long while, I didn't write about pain. I wrote about survival. I wrote about a little girl who refused to stop fighting. I wrote about a father whose love still echoed in every room. And a mother who realized that some roots must break, so new ones can grow. The Monday after our first weekend home, Lily had her evaluation at the Columbus Children's Rehabilitation Center. I'd heard it was one of the top pediatric neurotherapy facilities in the state, $3,000 per day, not including equipment or personalized therapy. But I didn't flinch. I had the trust. I had the plan. And most of all, I had the will to give Lily every single opportunity to heal. They ran tests, motor functions, memory retention, auditory processing, visual tracking. She scored better than expected in cognitive areas, but her motor coordination still lagged behind. Her right leg had regained partial movement, but her left was stubborn. Still, Drew, her therapist, stayed upbeat. "She's a fighter," he said after the first hour. "I've seen kids with far less trauma shut down completely. But not Lily. She wants this." And she did. Every day after therapy, she asked for a recap. She liked hearing what she'd done right. She liked knowing where to aim next. "I want to get stronger," she said. "So I can dance again." "Dance?" I asked, smiling. She nodded, completely serious. "I want to learn ballet. The kind with the big white skirts and the spinny shoes." "Then that's what we'll do," I said. "We'll find a teacher. We'll get you the spinniest shoes they make." Lily grinned like I had just promised her the moon. Back home, I hung up a small dry erase board in the kitchen labeled Operation Comeback. She drew a dolphin wearing a cape as the logo. Each week, she checked off her own progress. Sat up for 10 minutes, heavy checkmark. Drew with left hand, heavy checkmark. Said hippopotamus without help, heavy checkmark. Wheeled to mailbox and back, heavy checkmark. Didn't cry during bandage change, heavy checkmark. Watching her fight became my fuel. Her recovery was slow, uneven, but fierce. One evening, I got a call from Ethan. "Julie," he said calmly, "you should know Curtis Allen has been arrested again. The man who killed my husband and nearly destroyed my daughter." "What happened?" I asked, heart pounding. "Another DUI. This time he sideswiped a parked police cruiser. No injuries, thank God. But the district attorney is moving forward with criminal charges. He'll likely serve time." "Good," I said. "He should." But that night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about Brian. What he would say if he knew that man was still out there, hurting people. I wanted justice. But I also wanted peace. And I didn't know if the two could ever coexist. The next morning, I woke up to find Lily sitting in the living room, trying to stand. She was gripping the back of the couch, feet planted unevenly, legs trembling. "Lily." I rushed forward. "You shouldn't. I want to surprise you," she said through gritted teeth. "I want to stand when Daddy's song plays." "Daddy's song?" She nodded. The one he played when he made pancakes. I swallowed hard. Come on, let's do it together. I wrapped my arms gently around her waist, guided her step by step until she stood upright for a full 5 seconds. She beamed. I'm taller than the couch again, she shouted. I couldn't speak. I just held her. Later that day, I got another text from my mother. We were thinking of organizing a small family dinner soon. Just the 4 of us. Us, you, and Lily. Nothing fancy. Maybe Thursday? No mention of Evan. No mention of money. It didn't feel like a trap. But I'd learned to trust actions, not invitations. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took Lily to the botanical garden near our house. I wheeled her down the paved paths under warm sunlight. She pointed at every pink flower she could find and asked if it smelled like cotton candy. When she grew tired, we sat beneath a stone archway and shared a smoothie. Do you think Grandma and Grandpa are different now? She asked suddenly. I think they're trying, I said honestly. But trying doesn't always mean they're ready. She nodded, more thoughtful than any 8-year-old should have to be. I think people who say sorry with words should also say it with time. Like, show up more than once. I kissed the top of her head. You're wise beyond your years, kiddo. She looked up at the sky. Daddy would want me to forgive them. But only if they meant it. I smiled. Then we wait. And we see. That Thursday, I accepted the invitation. I brought Lily to the restaurant they suggested, a quiet, modest Italian place halfway between their neighborhood and mine. No waiters in suits. No pretentious menus. Just soft lighting and fresh pasta. My parents were already seated. My mom stood immediately, walking around the table to hug Lily gently. You look taller, sweetheart, she said. And I love your sea turtle earrings. Lily smiled politely. Thanks. I picked them out myself. The dinner was simple. Conversation light. No interrogations. No agendas. Until dessert came. My mother reached into her handbag and pulled out a small wrapped box. This was your father's idea, she said. We know it's small, but we wanted Lily to have something from our home. Something that's always been hers, even if we didn't show it well. Lily opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny gold locket shaped like a seashell. She opened it to find a photo, one of Brian, holding her in a hospital blanket the day she was born. My father had taken that photo. I never even knew it existed. Lily gasped. It's Daddy. I stared at them both. My mother's eyes were misty. My father looked down, clearing his throat. He always asked for a copy, Dad said. I just never gave it to him. I thought, maybe now's the right time. I didn't trust their timing. But I couldn't ignore the gesture either. That night, Lily fell asleep on the ride home clutching the locket. When I carried her inside and laid her in bed, I sat by her side longer than usual. Listening to her soft breathing. Watching the rise and fall of a chest that once had to fight for every breath. The next day, she asked if Grandma could come to therapy. I hesitated. But then I said yes. She showed up. She clapped when Lily completed her step reps, she cried silently when Lily fell and got up again. She didn't interrupt. She didn't perform. She just watched. And afterward, she whispered, I wish I'd been there from the beginning. I was too caught up in expectations to see what really mattered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Some things didn't require closure. Just space to breathe and rebuild. But it was my father who surprised me most. A few days later, he stopped by unannounced. I replaced the back ramp, he said. It wasn't sealed properly. Could have made her slip in the rain. I opened the door wider. Coffee? I asked. Sure, he said, sitting slowly. It's been a while since we sat without fighting. I think we're both tired of fighting. He looked at me, really looked. I'm not asking for anything. Not now. Not ever again. But I hope, someday, you'll believe that we want to make this right. I nodded. We'll see. Because forgiveness, like healing, doesn't arrive in grand speeches or printed letters. It shows up in the quiet. In every small, consistent act. In the love you offer after all the doors have been slammed. 2 weeks after that dinner, Lily had a breakthrough. She took her first 5 unsupported steps across the therapy room. Everyone froze, Drew, the nurses, even the parents of other kids. Then came the explosion of applause. Lily smiled so wide I thought her cheeks might split. I walked, Mommy. Daddy saw me, right? I knelt beside her, arms shaking as I hugged her. He saw, baby. He never looked away. We had dinner that night with Megan. She brought her famous lasagna and a bottle of apple juice she'd wrapped in a ribbon labeled Victory Juice. We all laughed, even Lily, even me. For a moment, it felt like the world before the crash. A moment where grief didn't lead the conversation. Then came the knock at the door. It was after 9 p.m., dark outside, the kind of late-night knock that tightens your stomach. I opened it slowly. Standing there was my father. Drenched in rain. Holding a thin envelope. His hands were trembling, and not from the cold. I wasn't going to come, he said. But you need to see this. He handed me the envelope and turned to leave. Inside was a document. A printed email chain. A forwarded message from someone at Tricor Mutual, Curtis Allen's insurance company. It was a funding request. From Evan. Claiming to be a managing partner in a family-directed trust for Lily Reynolds. He'd used Lily's name. Her medical history. Even referenced Brian's death as part of the funding justification. At the bottom was a list of potential investors, including one my mother knew personally, someone she'd once introduced to me years ago at a charity gala. He was trying to fund his app. Again. Only this time, he wasn't asking me. He was pretending to be part of the legal oversight. I dropped the paper. My hands curled into fists before I could stop them. Megan picked it up, scanned it, her face going pale. Julie, she said, her voice sharp with rage. This isn't just disrespectful. This is fraud. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out the window into the night. All the effort. All the letters. The visits. The quiet. And it had still come down to this. They saw the money. That's what they always saw. Megan placed her hand on my shoulder. You know what you need to do. And I did. The next day, I called Ethan. He was furious. Not loud, controlled. Calculated. He filed an immediate cease and desist through the trust's legal team. Then he sent a warning letter to every name on the investor email list, clarifying that neither Evan Carlson nor any family member, aside from myself, had authority over Lily's trust. Any misuse would be prosecuted. I expected Evan to deny it. To pretend it wasn't his doing. But he didn't. He sent me a message. I messed up. I thought if I made something of myself, it would all balance out. I never wanted to hurt Lily. I thought the money could help all of us. I'm sorry. That was the last I heard from him. My parents stopped visiting. No explanation. Just a quiet retreat. A week later, Lily asked where Grandma was. I told her the truth. She's taking time to think. About how to show up the right way. Lily nodded solemnly. Maybe she needs more therapy than me. I stifled a laugh and kissed her forehead. That Sunday, we went to Forest Hills Park, where Brian had proposed, where we were married. It was a warm fall afternoon. Leaves the color of rust and honey scattered across the grass. I pushed Lily in her chair down the path, then lifted her gently onto the bench we once sat on years ago. I pulled out a small red box. Inside was Brian's wedding band. I had kept it with me every day since the funeral. Sometimes in my purse. Sometimes on the windowsill. Sometimes on the chain around my neck. But today, it had a new purpose. I placed it in Lily's hand. "This belonged to Daddy," I said. "He wore it every day. And now, you can hold it when you need to remember how much he loved you." Lily curled her fingers around it. "I won't lose it." "I know you won't." As we sat there, a couple passed by, young, holding hands, clearly in love. I smiled for them. Then turned back to my daughter. "We're going to be okay, Lily. You promise?" "I do." And for the first time since that Friday at 3:12 p.m., when the phone rang and everything changed, I believed it. Not because life had magically gotten better. Not because pain had disappeared. But because I had finally let go of needing my parents to prove anything. Because I had chosen my own path forward. And Lily was walking it beside me. One step. One day. One breath at a time. Lily's second follow-up MRI was scheduled for November 3rd. A date I'll never forget, not because the results were groundbreaking, but because it was the day I finally exhaled. "Brain swelling has resolved," Dr. Mitchell told us, pointing at the scan. "There are signs of mild cognitive trauma, but nothing that should hinder her ability to learn, create, or thrive, especially with continued therapy. She's still on the road to recovery, but the path is clearer now." I blinked hard. "So, she's okay?" "She's getting there," he said with a smile. "And from what I've seen, she's doing it faster than anyone expected." That afternoon, Lily insisted on throwing a no more beeping machines party. Megan came over with handmade party hats. Drew, her therapist, brought balloons. We baked cookies shaped like brains and hearts, Lily's idea. "We gotta celebrate the inside stuff too," she said proudly. She was wearing her Operation Comeback shirt, and she added a new sticker to the board. "Heavy checkmark MRI says I'm still awesome." As the music played in the background, Lily twirled once in her wheelchair and tried to stand for a few seconds on her own. She wobbled but didn't fall. We all clapped. She bowed. She looked free. That evening, I sat on the porch watching the sun set over our quiet neighborhood, my tea cooling in my hand. It was finally quiet, peaceful, not numb. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "We heard about Lily's scan. We're glad she's okay. I know you don't need us, but if you ever want us there, we're still trying to be better. No excuses. No manipulation. Just that." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied. "Lily deserves people who show up. If you're still willing to be that, prove it. Not for me. For her." No reply came immediately. And that was okay. Some doors don't need to be closed. They just need better locks. The next morning, Lily found the photo album I'd been avoiding, the one with all our family trips, her baby shower, our honeymoon in Asheville. She flipped through it, pausing at one picture of Brian holding her, standing in front of a giant balloon arch. "Was this my second birthday?" "Third," I said. "You had a cold and didn't like the clown. Daddy ended up wearing the wig instead." She giggled. "Can we print this one big and put it over my bed?" I nodded. "Absolutely." That afternoon, while she napped, I framed it. The photo. And beneath it, I wrote one sentence: "The ones who stay are the ones who count." It became our mantra. Weeks passed. Lily started attending half-days at a special education program, and every time I picked her up, she had something new to tell me, about whales, about the solar system, about a boy named Matteo who could whistle through his fingers. She was coming back to life. In 100 tiny ways. One morning, as I packed her lunch, I found a folded note in her backpack. In her careful, wobbly handwriting, it read, "Dear Mommy. I know you miss Daddy. I do too. But you are strong and I'm strong too. And we are okay. Love, Lily." I sat down at the kitchen table and cried. Not the broken, silent sobs I'd been bottling. These were warm, steady tears of release. Of pride. Of survival. Of joy. 3 months after the accident, Ethan finalized all remaining legal matters. The trust stood firm. The protections were solid. Evan had gone quiet, perhaps out of shame, perhaps convenience. It didn't matter anymore. My mother showed up one Saturday unannounced, but this time, with no envelope, no agenda. Just herself. A tray of homemade lasagna, and a question. Can I sit with her while she draws? I nodded, slowly. Yes. But don't talk about the past. Just be here. She did. She asked Lily about her drawings. Listened to her stories. Laughed when Lily called her old Grandma Dolphin. It wasn't a repair. Not yet. But it was a beginning. And that was enough, for now. That night, I walked into Lily's room and found her asleep, clutching the framed photo of Brian and her. Her locket glinted in the moonlight. I tucked the blanket around her and whispered, "You're never alone." Because she wasn't. Neither was I. Life didn't go back to what it was. That version of life was gone. But in its place, we built something different, something quieter, sturdier, more honest. Lily now walks with a slight limp, but she doesn't care. She calls it her power strut. Every Saturday, she waters the garden Brian started. Every night, we read together. Every morning, I remind her, "You're safe. You're strong. You're loved." And every now and then, my mother calls, not to ask for anything, but to ask how Lily slept, what she's drawing, what her favorite snack is this week. She's learning. Slowly. Quietly. And I'm letting her. Because real family isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when everything else falls away. Brian may be gone, but he left me with the blueprint for how to love. And Lily? She's the house we built together. Still standing. Still full of light. Sometimes, the greatest revenge is living with dignity when others expect you to crumble. Julie didn't just protect her daughter, she protected the legacy of a man who loved fully, and she rebuilt a home out of wreckage. When family fails you, you're allowed to draw your boundaries. To protect peace. To let only love stay. What would you do in Julie's shoes? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to Revenge Echoes for more powerful true life stories about betrayal, redemption, and the strength it takes to rise again.